The Bikeriders is a character-driven drama about a motorcycle club in Chicago during the late 60s into the early 70s. I think many people could write off this film as a masturbatory gang film with a bunch of machismo. While there's plenty of that in there to keep general audiences entertained, there is a thorough exploration of male-dominated social organisms, why lifestyle is so important to Americans, the freedom of being a loser, and how we choose to deal with things outside of our control. The Bike Club is itself a character in this story. The club begins as a loose assortment of guys just looking for fun, ride motorcycles, and get stoned. Johnny invents a character for himself by watching biker movies. Johnny is inherently a phony, but he lives the character so seriously it's as if he's always been a badass. Here's where I think this film makes a commentary about Americans' obsession with lifestyle. This was the Midwest in the 60s, a golden era for middle-class working folk, willing to put in a hard day's work. You'd get a house, a car every year, a big family. Is this enough for Johnny? No. He also must pretend he's a badass to feel fulfilled. So many OGs of the Bike Club are similar. They can't even fake it. Multiple times in the film, these characters back down from conflict. This Bike Club is a form of playing for them, to massage their egos. Unfortunately, when you play pretend as a badass, you might end up meeting one. This brings us to Benny. Benny is actualized as a badass and a dirtbag. Benny doesn't have a normal job, but he isn't a criminal either. He lives simply and enjoys the little things in life, like doing the dumb machismo of the club. Benny has no material desires or even for statuses. Johnny wants Benny to take over the club, but he refuses because he at least knows himself and can't handle that level of responsibility. I think Benny has a level of dirtbag nirvana we could learn from. He knows he can only change himself and doesn't attempt to change the world around him. This is not to say this doesn't rub his wife Kathy the wrong way. She wants Benny to be different so that they can have a more traditional life, but these attempts are in vain. Johnny and Kathy share a moment acknowledging that both are trying to control something they can't. For Johnny, it's the club. Johnny has let the party get way too out of control. The club, with all of its chapters, has drifted away from why the club was made in the first place. I think this story arc is quintessentially a metaphor of the 60s. So many of the revolutionary concepts, movements, and ideas worked great in small sample sizes, but once expanded, these movements fall from grace and unravel, whether from the external world, internally, or both. The cultural revolutions of the 60s were failures. They failed to meaningfully change our world. I think the message of the Bikeriders is you can have your cultural revolution, but you need to keep things small and manageable. Don't change your world. Create an insular world for you to enjoy. Johnny let things get too large and he ran into a real badass, who then perverted his vision and made it a biker gang, not a biker club. Benny, who was once so stubborn, decided to change himself so he could live a more normal life with someone who really loved him. Even though this film took place 50 years ago, I still felt a culture shock that I wasn't expecting. Male social groups like these don't really exist anymore, which I think has definitely led to the male identity crisis so many feel today. The Bike Club performed such an important function to these men's identity and how they felt as part of a community. The closest thing that I think exists today in a wide form would be online gaming clubs, and that is a poor substitute. This shows how our society has deteriorated socially over the past few decades, alienating us from our community and making us more easily manipulated. The ability for us to collectively dictate how we live our lives is gone. We are now forced to carve out our personal revolutions with our loved ones, or suffer to conformity. Thanks for listening to my analysis on the Bikeriders. It would mean a lot if you wouldn't mind liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And if you wouldn't mind supporting me on Patreon, it goes a long way to helping me make more of these videos. Thank you.